Hello, everyone. Welcome to But First Football. We are here today to talk about was that week 10 or week 9?
Week
I'm
10, pretty sure.
and what a crazy week. Just a little background. I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico, visiting my sister, so I'm in a little different environment, not with all of my tools, um, but but that's where I am, and so we're still dedicated to our podcast.
Yes.
So, jumping into our fundamentals, this week we're going to talk about the odds of progressing from high school to college to pro, which is all very apropos considering the conversations we've had with my nephew
Exactly.
and just everything that you see in college football now and all this. It's crazy stuff, right? It's really different from when you were coming up, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah, the rules have changed quite a bit. But the other part of that, at least for the athlete, is it's a little bit, not a little bit, I would say a lot of bit easier to get on the radar of colleges in terms of the social media, in terms of the scouting that different companies do at the high school level. It's a little bit better to get your tape out there and be seen by any number of coaches. And actually, one of the coolest things, God rest his soul, my old coach, Terry Donahue, who passed away a few years ago, he used to run, it was almost like a second chance camp for high school seniors who hadn't really gotten a good look. It was a little bit deeper in the recruiting season, kind of after the letter of intent day. He would run a huge camp, invite a bunch of old former players back to kind of run the guys through some drills. In Division Two NAIA, which is a different league than the NCAA, but still college football. These kids would get an opportunity to be seen by coaches, and there were a lot of kids who got scholarships, and if not scholarships, at least opportunities to go play in college from that camp.
Was he the only one who was really doing anything like that at that time?
The only one I was aware of, but I'm sure there were probably other people who did similar things. I just can't imagine that he was the only one, but it was something that he was, dedicated to. And I hate that I never got the chance to go back and participate in one of the camps, but yeah, it was that's just another opportunity, just because there's only so many slots, and if you maybe at a small school, you don't get that opportunity to get looked at, and so this is a stat-filled day. Just I'll give it to you first. So there's approximately 1.1 high school football players any given year, right? And I'm sure that number fluctuates. And of that, 30,000 are seniors.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, and of those 30,000 seniors that go on to play in the NC2A, 70,000 players are playing in the NC2A. So, and of that, 20,000 are freshmen. So the percentage that go from high school to NCAA football, 6.5%. So,
Wow.
yeah, you're playing with
Wow.
some small percentages, right?
Yeah.
Now geographics matter, and I say that because certain states are well known for being, hey, there's a ton of football talent in this state. New York, for as many people as there are, just is not. I'm not exactly sure why. Any given year, at least that go Division One, it's about 20 kids. Now
Wow. Oh
that
my
number's
God.
a little bit bigger when you count all of college football, but at least Division One, it's 20 kids out of New York State, out of all the millions of people in New York. I'm not exactly sure why. Now, again, that number fluctuates year to year, but that's about it. Whereas you consider California, Texas, Georgia,
Florida.
uh, yeah,
You know, there's a few
yes,
players from Florida.
Pennsylvania, Ohio. Like these are states that are
Yes. Yeah.
known to have a ton of football talent. And the reason it matters geographically is because you are likely to be playing in your league, no matter whether you're at a big school or small school, you're likely to be playing other players who are going to end up in Division One. So the scouting from the college level is a little bit easier and say, hey, I can project how this kid is going to do because I've seen him compete against other kids who are going to be playing at that next level. Whereas my situation, And at the time, UCLA had a national recruiting footprint, so we always had tons of guys who were from out of California. And once I got to UCLA and kind of established myself and did well, my coach pulled me to the side one day. It was my first time making the all-conference team. He said, we didn't necessarily think you were going to be this type of player. It just so happened, you weren't playing high-level competition, but you were very athletic, and it was kind of a down year for linemen in California. So we kind of took a chance on you. Hey, it worked out. But, so you never know exactly how people are going to get it. Like I said, with the scouting, high school scouting that they do now, different companies, uh, if you have any ability at all, they will find you, right? And so of that 6.5%, 16,000 of those 70,000 NCAA college players are seniors. And of that 16,000, about 6,500 any given year are going to get scouted by the NFL to potentially go to the next level. And of that, 256 get invited to the combine.
That's
Right?
crazy.
So now we're
Crazy.
talking about really small percentages. And, the
Yeah.
combine, for people who might not know, is the annual get together in February where all the scouts, all the coaches, all the management of all the NFL teams get together. And it used to always be in Indianapolis. Now they move it around. I want to say this year it might be in LA. I'm not exactly sure, but it's where they do medical testing, measurements in terms of height, wingspan, how big is your hand, and then the athletes
Hey, Vaughn,
also. Yes.
they do that now. Like if Dylan goes, like, he went last weekend, I think, to Penn State,
Mm-hmm.
and all of the games that he goes to now as a recruit,
Yes.
they do that. The first thing they do when they get there is they measure these kids. It's kind of weird.
Right. Right. Well, because look, they don't want a situation where they invite Dylan and he's 6'7" in the program, and then they offer him a scholarship. He gets to the school and he's 6'1", right?
Right. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
so so
Thank
the, so the NFL is doing that as well, right? And so they know your past medical history, and if you've had a previous injury, they're double checking, triple checking that. There's psychological interviews. I remember at the combine when I was there. I don't know if they still do it. The Giants had a 400 question test, and some of
Oh
the
my
questions
God.
repeat, but they're just slightly worded differently to see. Like it's craziness, absolute crazy.
Wow.
And thankfully, I'm glad they move it around now because it was such a disadvantage for West Coast guys because we'd be essentially working out at 4 o'clock our time, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, but that part of it is big business. Everyone's agents send them off to these camps, these workout programs to get them ready, and it's basically teaching to the test. They're going over the things they're going to do at the combine. It's not just working out for the sake of working out, being bigger, stronger, faster. It's, hey, this is what they're going to test you on. If you're a quarterback, here are the questions that you might encounter in a room where they get you on the board to see what you know in terms of reading defenses, anticipation, all of that. They're teaching to the test. And so, again, it's big business. And of that group, 300 will make an NFL team. Now, it's bigger than the number of kids going to the combine because all those combine kids aren't going to get drafted, but there's undrafted
Right.
free agents, right? There's
Yeah.
always,
Yeah.
you don't know who they are going to be, but there's always going to be a group of undrafted free agents that make an NFL roster.
Yeah.
Um,
No, wait,
so,
Con, go
yes.
back to what you were saying. So, at what point do these kids get agents? Because by the time they're at the combine, they have some sort of representation, right?
Well, again,
Or
it's different now because with the NIL, a lot of kids have agents in terms of getting them NIL deals. So it's a
yeah,
little bit different now. It was very taboo back in my day to have an agent before you declared for the NFL, or at least it was known. Maybe you hadn't declared, but you knew you were leaving because it
right.
was
Okay.
illegal. You could,
Yeah.
you couldn't even take a meal from an agent. That was illegal, right?
Yeah.
So the rules are very different now in terms of that. But yeah, but
Yep.
leading up until that time, about a couple weeks, I'm sure a lot of kids have already interviewed with, kind of know who they're going with. Some don't, and some will be kind of after the fact. Maybe they weren't on the radar, but they have a great season. Hey, maybe I do have a chance, right? And so uh, but those top tier kids who have really established themselves early, they're getting sent to these places that are going to put them through all the paces, and it's very expensive because they control their food, they control their several work. It's not just one workout a day; it's 2 or 3 workouts a day plus classroom time. Like I said, all their food is taken care of, so it's an expensive process, but it's an
Right.
investment that everyone's hoping is going to pay off down the line. And
Right.
so, high
Yeah.
school to the NFL, 1.6% of players. But then it doesn't end there, right? Because the number of players who go from year 1 to year 4, it's halved. It's only 150 of those players. And then when you consider that those 150 players that aren't in the league, they're not just accepting that fate. They're trying to get back into the league. So everyone who's coming up behind them, you're competing against the 150, not just the kids that you're coming out of school with, but 150 kids from the class in front of you that are trying to get back.
Right.
150 from the class in front of them that are trying to get right. So it's crazy competition. It's very difficult, And if you're that guy who can make it, it's rewarding, obviously. And then I know we've talked about how uh, the average career is 3 years, and then vesting for pension and benefits is 3 years plus 3 games. So
So interesting.
which is not a bug, that's a feature, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it just like, I mean, I don't know. I've known you for such a long time now, and it's really something to think about an elite group you have. I mean, you are one of a very finite number of people who have had this incredible experience. It's that has to make you feel pretty
Well, you know
amazing
what?
sometimes. And then maybe it makes you feel like, man, I wish I played longer, or I don't know.
Well, looking back, I'm aware of it all, but at the time I didn't know. Like I had no aspirations for the NFL when I got to UCLA. It was just the next step in my progression. I was going to figure out what I was going to do, and it just so happened, hey, things work out. I became a starter as a redshirt freshman. I made the first team All Pac-10 team at the time my sophomore year, and then I made like a third team All American my junior year, and then my senior year I did even better, right? So,
Yeah.
in the time, and I wasn't aware of it, right? I wasn't aware of what rarefied air I was in, and then to think about, look. So when I went to UCLA was rolling like they were top 10 team, and I was playing with athletic freaks. There was NFL talent at every position group when I was at UCLA. We were always top 2 or 3 in terms of number of guys going to the NFL. And I could have you here forever running down the list of guys who did that. But and so that was part of it as well, getting to a place where, and it wasn't necessarily, certainly where there were guys who were like, hey, this is just a stepping stone until I get to the NFL. But for everyone else, it was just kind of, hey, I want to play, so I'm going to compete as hard as I can. Hey, coach me up. In terms of the workouts, I was a knucklehead in school back then. And not because I thought I was going to them. I was kind of overwhelmed by LA more than anything else, right?
Buffalo boy in LA.
Yeah.
Yes.
um, but yeah, so I didn't really recognize it at the time, and then looking back, it's like, oh man, like yeah, it was a nice accomplishment, and I went. Look, I've got a lot of lingering issues in terms of my body and everything, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I'd do it all over because just the friends I made and the experiences I've had. Just I would, and so and so sometimes I think, which is why I want to say. I thought it was appropriate subject. I got it from my friend Courtney again. I was like, that's really great because we have talked to Dylan and he's a big time recruit, but that isn't always necessarily meaning, hey, you're on a fast track to the NFL, right? There's a lot of
Right.
steps. However, in terms of like that next level for him, he's playing in an area where he's playing against great competition and he's distinguishing himself as a top player. And like, that's why everyone in the country wants him, right?
Yeah.
And so I just
Yeah.
thought this would give a little bit of color to, beyond just the numbers and say, hey, this is kind of how things work. This is what it, feels like. And yeah, it was interesting to me. So I was like, yeah, let's
No,
talk
it
about
is.
that.
It's actually really shocking when you break it down that way.
Yeah,
And
right.
when you think, I mean, but it makes perfect sense when you think about it. There's only 32 teams. There's only
Yes.
32 NFL teams. And
Yeah.
granted, there's, whatever these leagues that keep popping up and not
Yes.
working because
Yes.
the NFL is ultimately where, the quality of the product, um, just the incredible like faith, the fans, faithful fans, and it's really quite an entity, and it's very unusual.
Yes.
And how cool to be a member of that very small fraternity,
Yes, exactly.
right?
Yeah. And that's what it is. It really is a fraternity because again, no one remembers any of the scores of the games, but it's like,
Yeah,
and it's like whether, and there's plenty of guys you don't play with, but you go to an event, you go to a get together, and everyone's just like, hey, talk about your time, talk about your
yeah,
time. And it's just guys are really, because we all do look at it as a fraternity.
yeah. I can totally see that. And
Yeah.
for those of us on the outside looking in, it's kind of like, man, what a cool place to be, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, I got a little bit of a look at some of the fraternity. I told you I was volunteering for Mike Evans' gala last Friday.
Yes, that's right.
And, it was your typical gala. But I guess the highlight for me was I was a bid spotter in the live auction. So I had
Oh,
to
okay.
have like a light, and I was getting
Right.
the auctioneer's attention, and they auctioned the items off, and oh my gosh, they auctioned off the Mike Evans jersey that he wore this season opener, and then the cleats that he wore when he made his 100th touchdown catch.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, as a package. I think that went for like, I don't know, 8,000 or something like that. But
Uh-huh.
man, that's a collector's item. But anyway, they did the part where they're just doing the general ask for funds. And they started at Coach Bowles actually made a very generous donation of 15,000, but they were going to start at 13,000 because Mike's number 13.
Right.
They start at 13 and they go on and on, down all the way to 250. And whenever anybody made a donation, we went and passed out these light up football necklaces. And so I was the one, Vita Vea made a donation, and I got to go, I was waving my thing, trying to get the guy's attention to this mountain of a man, Vita Vea.
Right.
And then I realized, oh my gosh, I didn't give him the football necklace. So I went and I could barely get it over his head. And then I turned it on to light up. But that was probably the highlight. But Vita was there, Baker, Kyle Trask, the backup quarterback. Who else did I see? There were, I mean, he was his buddies were there for him. They really
Yeah.
supported him. So it was nice
Oh,
to
that's
see.
good.
Yeah, nice to see.
What is his charity for?
He really focuses primarily on domestic abuse, and so they every year give out 13 scholarships to
Okay.
kids who have come through, not a great situation.
Right.
They're very active. His wife Ashley is lovely. They're very involved. The kids were all there. It was a very nice event. So
Oh, that's
it
good.
was cool. Yeah,
Good.
fraternity. So good info. So should we move into favorites then?
Sure.
So I would be remiss. I know one time we had a non-football favorite for you, so I'm going to give you my non-football favorite.
Okay.
It's being back in Santa Fe, which is where I grew up.
Right.
It's all about the food for me. It's all about the food. So one of our favorite F words is food. All I do here, I swear to God, is eat. And it was funny because last night my sister Molly works for this organization, Global Santa Fe, and they do a lot of just bringing different cultures and groups together. And last night there was an event, and it was about gastro diplomacy. How, really some of the best diplomacy comes from sitting at a table with someone and sharing a meal.
Yes.
And how
I agree.
culturally, that's just so important. And as an immigrant, you come to a country, and what do you bring? You bring your food. So the speaker was saying, and think back to, the meals of your childhood. And I'm thinking back, well, mine is the number 8 from the Shed, which is my favorite restaurant of all time. So that's what I'm thinking. Like, that's my gastro, everything. In fact, that's
Right.
where we're going tonight, and I will be having the number 8 at the shed, and I really truly cannot wait. So anyway, that's my favorite right now is the food. Um, Fashion favorite, I would hand it to Joshua Hines Allen from the Jaguars. And I feel like I keep picking these teams that aren't even they're not really winning, so they're not really televised.
Right.
But boy, did he look good. He had. I also have noticed that this season I'm kind of into the monochromatic look.
Okay.
So he had on head to toe Dior, but not screaming logo, but it was all Dior.
Right.
And it was all very neutral, and it looked fantastic on him. It was a sweater with a crossbody and down to the shoes. He looked great. So I think Ashton will probably put up that picture. And then my favorite football play from the week, even though we lost, Baker is so freaking tough. Did you see him
Yes,
literally
I did.
manhandle Nick Bosa and complete that pass?
For like 5 seconds.
I mean, yes, just holding him the whole time, and he's like, I mean, that's crazy stuff. And the other one was Lamar doing that whole little tiptoe down the sideline, like however many yards that was. There's some incredible quarterback play going on, and some really crappy quarterback play going on.
Yeah, that's
But
true. Cooper
those
Rush.
were my two favorite plays of last week that I saw. What were your favorites?
So my favorite was a bit of a fashion favorite. Did you see? Well, obviously you saw the Baltimore uh, alternative uniforms,
Yeah, yeah. That
which were
face,
fine. Which,
the front face Raven. Yeah.
yes, which were fine. I kind of dug the purple and gold a little bit,
Mhm.
but I saw a video where they brought players in one at a time, and there was a box in front of them. They opened the box and they pulled the helmet out, and it was the same reaction every time. They're like, are we really wearing these? Like, and their reactions were just priceless. Like, and so it was just very cool to see them get excited about something that's, it's kind of trivial to the outcome
Yeah,
of the game as the
yeah.
helmet, but they were all super pumped, super excited, like, and almost to a man, are we really wearing these? Like, they were very,
Did you
so
do you ever watch Good Morning Football on NFL Network?
I have on occasion, yes.
Peter Schrager had one of those helmets,
Uh huh.
and I don't know how he got it, but he put it on the show. He was so obsessed with it, and he was saying something similar that he must have seen the same video
Yeah.
where the guys were just like, "Whoa." It's fun to see them get excited like that.
Well, that's the thing about sports in general for me is I love there's nothing else where you see grown men act with the youthful exuberance of kids, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
and sports does it. So that's why I
yeah.
love it so much.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally
So that
agree.
was my fave.
Oh, it's a good one. It's a good one. So sadly, my frustration again. Why can't we win a football game? I mean, we are hanging in there and like, so my frustration would be back to something similar from last week. It felt like we went away from the game plan.
Hmm.
Where was Bucky Irving at the end? Where was Sean Tucker at the end? I don't know. I just don't understand. Like, we had them. The San Francisco kicker
Missed
missed
free
three
kicks.
field
Yeah.
goals. It's so shameful that we could not win that game. And again, it came down to also, in my opinion, a little bit of clock management there at the end. And just, why would we throw it on third down?
Yeah.
And
Just
we're right there at the end zone. If Bucky Irving had been in there, I feel like he could have gotten that.
well, just kind of generally speaking, it really did feel like although San Fran won, it was like almost like they were trying to give the game away a
It
little
did feel
bit.
like that. Yeah. It did feel like that. That's why it's so frustrating that we
Yeah.
couldn't win it.
Yeah. I
And
know.
the defense is just it's I guess Jamel Dean is gonna be back after the bye, thank God. But I mean, Todd Bowles is a defensive guru, and he's known to be like this, these blitzing, crazy, tough defenses. And I don't know what's going on.
You know what? Real quick, since you're there, is there one team in particular that kind of the people of Santa Fe kind of root for, or is it kind of just a mixed bag?
The people in Santa Fe are all about skiing.
Okay, gotcha.
Although I did talk to someone last night who is a Raider fan. Um, and I grew up here and I was a Raider fan.
Yeah.
So I think, but interestingly, at the airport, there was another guy. He was wearing a Bucks jersey, and of course, we had chatted. Um, and he had on a Mike Evans hat. And the
Hmm.
security guards that we were both happened to be waiting at the curbside at the same time. And the security guards were like, "Oh man, once you guys get Evans back, you're totally into the playoffs." And I was like, "Wow, Albuquerque, okay." So, but no, here, this is an artistic, outdoorsy, hiking,
Yep.
skiing.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
So,
Well,
what was your frustration?
mine was the Chiefs win.
Oh, I
Just
agree. So
such
annoying.
such a low percentage play, and they win on it. Right? What are the odds you're going to really block the kick to win the freaking game?
Ah,
And it's they've really put themselves. It's kind of like the old Patriots, where it's like a virtuous cycle, right? Where they're so good at this thing that it kind of just that constant improvement of things that aren't necessarily directly connected, and it's just because our organization scouts well, and the quarterback is good and Andy Reid is good, and then we just find interesting low percentage ways to win. And it's just very, I'm tired of them. I'm tired of the Chiefs.
I I 100% agree with
They're not a
you.
fun story anymore.
Totally agree with you. And I don't know, someone's bound to take them down. I mean,
I
I
think
wish
they're
it,
a little, well, that's what everyone's saying. Like the conventional wisdom is that they're vulnerable. However, based on what I just said, are they really? Yeah, maybe they're not destroying teams, but they're going to find a way. And yeah, do I think they'll go undefeated? No, but that's not their goal, right? I doubt that was one of their goals this year. But they're going to have something to say about who wins the championship again.
well,
So
I'm just saying if they're in the Super Bowl again, I don't care who else is in that Super Bowl.
your vote.
I'm rooting for them. Even if it was the stupid Falcons, which is not going to be. But I agree with you. Did you hear though that both Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey had their homes robbed?
Oh no, really?
Yes, I, and like one of them $20,000 in cash. But yeah, isn't that kind of weird that both of them had
You
their
know what?
homes
I mean, I've
burglarized?
heard. I mean, I've heard about it in LA quite a bit, right? But with social media and knowing the schedule of games, people know when you're not at home, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's dangerous in some
Well,
respects.
plus I was also thinking about, in the series quarterback, they show his home. I
Oh,
mean,
really?
all of them. They show all of their homes. Like it's
Okay.
very, yeah. So that's horrible. I mean, no
Yeah,
matter
that
how I
is
feel about
horrible.
the Chiefs, I think it's just a terrible thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So frustration, no, flops, flops.
Flops.
Okay,
Yes.
I got one, man. I wonder if you and I have the same one.
Maybe.
Um, I was appalled by Debo Samuel's behavior on the sideline in that game.
Oh,
Did you
gotcha.
see that?
You know what? I vaguely heard about it. I did not see it.
Well, so, yes, I'm sure for all of a team, frustrating if a kicker misses three kicks. I can only imagine, how frustrating that must be. It's frustrating as a fan, it's frustrating, but football's a team sport, right?
Hmm.
So if you're in the position where you're only kicking field goals, that means, there's some missed opportunities somewhere on the field, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's a team sport. So they show him he was kind of yelling at the poor field goal kicker who, can you
Right.
imagine if he had missed that last field goal, he would have not, they wouldn't have let him play. But the long snapper came to his defense, and Debo Samuels put his hand on the long snapper's neck.
Oh, wow.
Own teammate. I honestly, I was appalled. I just thought that was horrible, horrible. And I hope that there is some punishment for that. Like that's just not cool.
Yeah, I'm sure there was internally something. They were. It was going to be addressed. They wouldn't just let that go. I'm not going to be an apologist. I'll just say I understand the sentiment of, hey, I'm out here sacrificing my body for 70 plays this game.
Yep.
You've
Yep.
got maybe 6 to 10 opportunities, and some of those are just kickoffs.
Yep.
So do your job, but at the same time, like leadership, I'm just used to a different kind of leadership where it's not about, hey, what someone else should have done. It's like, what more can I do, right? Like the Junior Seau's, the Rodney Harrisons, who, hey, yeah, I'm playing well every game, but I'm not going to call out someone who's struggling. I'm going to say, hey,
Right.
you know what, you're struggling, then why don't you come work out with me in the morning? Let's see if that
Yeah.
helps change your
Yeah.
fortunes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's never there because there's always something more you can do, and it's not
It just,
about it's not about what happens when you drop a pass, Debo. It's not about that. It's just about, hey, how can you, who is someone we look to perform in those clutch situations, and who does more often than not, but hey, kind of, can you pull our kicker up with you, right? To elevate his level with you, where the
yeah.
next time he makes 6 out of 6, right?
Well, and
So
I mean, by the way, he probably the kicker. How do you think he felt? I mean, I'm sure he wasn't feeling proud of himself.
yeah,
You know.
yeah.
I will also say Debo Samuel's also completely flopped in the fashion that, so maybe it all kind of worked together. He literally had on, I'll find it and I'll send it so Ashley can put it up there. It was like one leg was a short and the other leg was a pant.
Oh,
It looked
okay.
ridiculous. So I'll just call Debo Samuel's a flop in my book for last week.
Okay.
So what was your
Well, I've got a trend going these last few weeks, but I think this is the last time that the Cowboys will be my flop, because I think I can officially put the nail in their coffin. I
Oh yeah.
think they are officially done. The Cooper
And
Rush,
we're gonna have to still watch them on Monday night.
I know.
Oh,
But the Cooper Rush pixie dust has worn off. He's not playing at the level he was. And they even put oh geez, what's the quarterback who they got from San Fran?
Trey Lance.
Yes,
Trey
Trey
Lance.
Lance. They even put
Yeah.
him in. And so that lets me know that they're kind of scrambling, trying to figure this thing out. But I think, and then as you see again, talking about leadership and looking at it a few more times, what Micah Parsons said about the coach, I think what he was really trying to say was, hey, Mike may be gone, but I'm really thinking about, he'll have another opportunity to coach somewhere. These guys here who I've been with for a couple of years, who are in year 12, year 13, might not have another opportunity at all, right? And so that's who. And then he
Yeah.
kind of ended it in a way that, look, I'm not going to apologize for him either. He did, whether it was inadvertent or on purpose, maybe he didn't know what he was saying, threw his coach under the bus. But I think that's where it started. It ended poorly.
I actually was kind of surprised by the reaction to that because I mean, I first of all, it seems to be a given that he's going to be gone at the end of the season. We know Jerry Jones did
Yeah,
not renew his
yeah,
McCarthy's contract, so
yeah,
he's not going to fire him in season apparently. But everyone knows it's done, right? Let's just no brainer. But I was thinking about what you had said, and you just said it again for these players who have this is it for them, and they're going to go out with a crappy team in a dysfunctional environment, and that
yes,
sucks.
yeah,
They
right.
like I think he was talking about Zach Bryan, who has given everything he could. So I was surprised kind of by the backlash on those comments because to me they seemed. I mean, I've heard worse about what the Chicago players are saying about their fired OC.
Well, it was just a matter of how he finished it, saying that uh, Zach had done more than anything. He had worked harder than uh, uh, Mike McCarthy had ever worked, or some words to that effect, right? And
Oh
so
yeah,
it was just
okay.
like, hey,
Words could be better. Yeah,
yeah, people were fired up about that part of it. And again,
yeah,
there's a player who he came back after injury and he made some plays. Like he had a strip sack and he didn't
yeah,
recover the fumble, but caused fumble, right? And so
yeah.
he's the type of guy that you hope is, and you just hope he's just a little bit more savvy. Hey, I don't know about the code that, like, and he started off perfectly. That's above my pay
Yeah,
grade. Ended
agreed.
there. referring to the coach, right? And then just talk
Yeah.
about, hey, how we're going to turn this thing around, and you lead it,
Yeah.
Micah, right? So
Well, we're at time already.
awesome.
So I'm going to get myself ready. I just put on some elastic waist pants.
Oh
And I'll
my
send you a
goodness.
picture of my number 8 from the shed. And I'll be back in Tampa next week. And God help us, there's another hurricane hanging around out there. Hopefully, it's not going to head
Yeah,
our way.
hopefully we'll
Um,
dissipate.
yeah,
Wait, it's the
but
number 8, right?
yeah, number 8 at the
Number 8.
shed.
Okay.
It's 2 bean burritos on blue corn tortillas and with
Okay.
this amazing, very hot red chili sauce, which I cannot get enough of. I drink it, and I actually just bought 6 jars of it. So anyway, thank you again for all the great info. And I know you're jetting off to Arizona, so have a great time there.
Thank you very much.
And we will convene again next week. So everyone, thank you for watching and listening. But first, football, please like us, subscribe to us on all our various platforms, and it's going to be another crazy week. Tonight's a good game
Yes.
again, so
Yes,
excited to
exactly.
to recap with you next week.
Okay, sounds good. See you, Kim.
Peace.
Bye.